The whole reason that she did those videos, the whole reason that she was delivering those personal messages is because the palace know that, look, they can keep going on at us and saying, look, she needs time, recovery journeys are different for everybody. But actually hearing it directly from her is really, really powerful. And also, I think she's kind of come on a bit of a personal journey herself. Homewards, I think, is such an interesting project for him in some ways, and you would have talked about Earthshot a lot last week. It's almost setting up these big entities to look at key social issues. A couple of years ago, when he launched Homewards, there were a few raised eyebrows when he's standing there saying, right, I'm going to show that we can end homelessness. And people thought, well, hang on a minute, that's all a bit ambitious. 2 years on, they're reinforcing it's not about ending homelessness. It's about showing that it can be rare, brief, and unrepeated. And he, at the centre of it, is basically using that good old-fashioned royal convening power.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of a Right World podcast with me, Andrea.
And me, Emmy.
We're back in the studio after our first ever live show last week, and so much has happened since then.
Yes, the royal family have released their finances for the past year and have made a bittersweet decision about the beloved royal train. Wimbledon has kicked off. Princess Catherine has reappeared after cancelling her visit to Ascot with some personal insights. And the Duchess of Sussex has announced the arrival of something that I personally am looking forward to trying in a few weeks' time. Her very own rosé.
We'll be chatting about all of it with Sky News royal correspondent Rhiannon Mills. But first of all, let's have a catch up with our royal editor, Emily Nash.
Welcome! Emily, welcome.
Hello, ladies. Fancy seeing you here.
Fancy seeing you here back in our studio.
I know it feels a bit quiet.
I mean, let's first things first talk about our live episode last week.
That was so much fun.
I feel like we haven't even debriefed.
I know we haven't. We rushed out. We went back to doing other things.
We went back to running around after the royals.
Yeah,
it was so much fun, wasn't it?
It was
great.
So much fun. Really, really loved it. It was genuinely so fascinating hearing from Pierre and Tony.
And meeting some listeners. A shout out to Sophie in particular. Yes. It was really nice to hang out with you afterwards, Sophie.
Hello, Sophie and Lou, who came to see the show. And they got up at 5 a.m. to get the train. Can you believe it?
It was great.
It was great. It was great. To the next one.
Yes.
To the tour.
I'm looking forward
I'm joking. I'm not here.
One thing at a time.
All in good time. All in good time.
We'll have to wait for the tour because this is actually your last episode.
Guys, I know. I'm not sure if anyone's seen me slowly expand. Today I've turned into the chair.
I love the way you styled it.
Completely matched. I did not think that through. But yeah, I'm off on mat leave. So
Will you miss us?
I'll miss you terribly. Yeah,
we will miss you.
We will.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch with interest. Probably crying
during the night.
Probably eating an ice cream.
You were the baby.
Yeah, all of us, just the whole household. But I can't wait to tune in as a viewer and a listener, and then be back in due course. Hopefully, if you'll have me.
Oh my goodness!
I'm just looking nervously at our producer. He's not making eye contact, so that doesn't bode very well at all.
And for our listeners, can they send in some royal baby name suggestions, or are you set already on
send in baby name suggestions, send in gifts, send in diamonds, like anything.
And any tips.
Unlike the royal family, I can accept and will accept all gifts. But yeah, so last one as the trio, which is very, very sad.
Let's make it a good one.
And let's make it a good one. Well, I hear that there's a magazine that we should be chatting about before we welcome Rhiannon.
You should say this, you're about to disappear for some time. You know, we are going to have a summer break coming up, but we have just published this. It's Royal Retreats. It's a special issue all about the places that the royals love to go to on holidays, the places they love to go and unwind. I know.
Lovely.
So
show it to the camera.
Show it to the camera.
Loads of lovely,
gorgeous photos.
Loads of lovely images and insights into the kind of things that royals do in their leisure time.
Yeah.
I'll be using this as where to take the baby on mat leave then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you've got, I'm sure, Balmoral.
You've
got, all sorts.
I saw luxury yachts are on the front page.
Favourites. Proposals on honeymoons.
Oh, gorgeous.
A little trip to Mystique.
Yes,
I'll pop on a plane to Mystique. I'll do it.
I love it. Jamaican Hideaway. Oh, there's plenty here to read. Yes.
Gorgeous. Well, without any further ado, should we welcome our guest?
I think we should. So we're going to be speaking to the wonderful Rhiannon Mills, Sky News' royal correspondent, and it's always fun catching up with her. Shall we bring her on?
Let's do it.
Rhiannon, welcome to a Right Roll podcast.
So nice to see you. Now, last time you had a load of audience, didn't you? I feel like I haven't brought enough people along to watch
we'll let
your
you
last
off.
podcast.
We'll let you off.
He's just our producer. Like, he's seen it all
I know.
before.
Sorry, we need more people to come in and
It's
watch.
an intimate recording
Yeah.
today, but obviously our listeners will be delighted to hear your voice and see you again. You've had a really busy week, haven't you? Tell us what you were doing yesterday.
So yesterday I went to Colchester with the Princess of Wales. And of course we are seeing her out and about a lot more than we did last year. It's still quite rare though to see her on public engagements. But again, it was reflecting what we know has become a really important part of her work now, and that is talking about other cancer patients and that sense of what help and support there is out there for people who are also going through the cancer recovery journey. It was fascinating being in the room with her.
Did you feel quite reassured after she obviously pulled out of Royal Ascot? She seemed well.
Look, I think she very loud and clear was wanting to get across this message that yes, she is now effectively back to royal work, but it's really difficult. And I certainly haven't heard her publicly talk in the way that she did yesterday. Her words were really strong. She reinforced how when you go through treatment, it's really tough. It's scary when you have that first diagnosis. You have to be brave, you have to be stoic. But as she said, once that treatment's over, people, and actually as individuals, you kind of think, oh, I can crack on now.
Yeah.
But it's not like that. You feel completely different. And I know that they found it very difficult, the reporting around her pulling out of Ascot.
Yeah.
Really difficult. And so I think for her yesterday, whether it was deliberate or not, we consistently were hearing her say, look, it's hard, that recovery journey. And as she put it, you have to find your new normal.
Yeah.
For me, it was the first time that she really clearly said, I'm sorry, yes, I'm back at work, but now there are some times that I just can't do what I used to be able to do.
Yeah.
It was perfectly timed. Do you think this engagement was in the books for a long time, or it was purposely done? Because it was the perfect engagement to come back to after Ascot.
Oh, yeah. The timing, I think, was perfect for them. But Emily and I know, look, they have a massive grid of engagements that they do. Nothing is kind of a last-minute job, if you like, apart from when there's been, I don't know, kind of a major event that they need to respond to.
Yeah.
So I suspect for a while they've wanted to do something like this. She was kind of so full of questions about this wellbeing centre that they've got in Colchester Hospital. And what's interesting about it is you've got the main hospital, and then you can take a really short walk through this lovely garden, and then they've got this bespoke wellbeing centre where people can come if they're going through treatment, or actually if they've just been given the news that they've been diagnosed. Another thing she kept talking about was the importance of mind, body and spirit, this whole idea of the holistic approach. Yeah, you have the treatment, you get blasted with, I don't know, chemotherapy or radiotherapy, but actually it's what's going on in your head. And that is really loud and clear, I think, from her, and has been, I think, ever since she's been so open about her diagnosis.
And she overstayed.
Yeah.
Which is we're hearing a lot about that. Now, you know, we had Pierre last week in the live telling us that William overstays.
Yep.
Like, we're hearing a lot of that now.
Yeah, her hair even got wet.
I know.
It was tipping it down, honestly. She's always got the most spectacular hair, and I thought, oh wow. God, all those curls have come out because she's been in the tipping rain. But she was offered gloves when she was bending down to plant some of those Catherine roses, which were specially commissioned by the Royal Horticultural Society. She didn't want gloves. She had filthy hands. My cameraman who was there kind of zoomed in on her filthy hands. He was like, oh, is that appropriate or not? And I was like, yes, it's her getting her hands dirty. So while, the palace keeps saying, we're going to have to all get used to that flexibility in terms of engagement she's doing. I think when she's there, and like you were saying, she overstayed. When they're there, they are fully in.
And was the walkabout, was that spontaneous?
Yeah,
the mini whoop.
Absolutely. Do you know what? It's hilarious. And Emily's been on these engagements quite often as well, where no one knows they're coming.
Yeah.
So you literally have people turning up for their appointments at Colchester Hospital, or staff kind of on a break, kind of doing that double take thing as she walked past.
Oh, wow, yeah. Can you imagine?
No, and then, of course, kind of the rumours get round that she's there, so more and more people were coming towards the garden. But yeah, we always love those spontaneous moments. It's kind of the best bit about this job, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
And she's really got that hard-won empathy with people now, hasn't she? Having been there herself.
Yeah.
She really does get it. And I think the way that she's speaking, I hope, really resonates with other people out there who are seeing it in a way that a press release isn't going to really cut through, is it, in the same way? Hearing it so directly from her.
Look, we heard last year, didn't we? The whole reason that she did those videos, the whole reason that she was delivering those personal messages is because the palace know that, look, they can keep going on at us and saying, look, she needs time, recovery journeys are different for everybody. But actually hearing it directly from her is really, really powerful. And also, I think she's kind of come on a bit of a personal journey herself. Like William and Kate have always been sort of known for being empathetic, having that amazing connection with people. Actually, the King and Queen have got it as well. I think since the cancer diagnosis for both the King and Kate, it's gone on another level. And when the King's done cancer engagements, and now when Kate is doing them as well, you almost just see not a royal, but an individual who's sitting there. She had her cup of tea and she was really directly talking to other people who they also get it. And she wants to show that she gets it too, but also has this amazing platform that others don't, to sit there and go, do you know what? We need more of these wellbeing centres. We need a greater emphasis on, it's not just kind of what's physically done to your body, but it's the other support that you can get as well. It's really powerful.
You mentioned the tea. I actually noticed, going through the pictures, which were amazing yesterday, her sitting down and having a cup of tea. I don't remember the last time she ever did that on an engagement. I feel like
they rarely eat and drink on engagements, because I think they're conscious that, if you suddenly tip something over yourself.
You kind of see with it, if you go through the agencies, which I do go a lot, you see William with a mug every now and again. And, you see him more relaxed. But Kate, immediately I was like, oh, wow. And then, her hands dirty, like you say. She loves being in touch with nature. She's talking about it. And then they posted a video of the engagement and all the B-roll that they used, close-ups of flowers, close-ups of the rain, close-ups of, everything nature, which again, from our live pod, it's what
it ticks
Tony,
every box.
And
it ticks every box for them. It's perfect engagement.
Your live podcast, obviously you were talking about kind of the real focus on the environment. I think for her, it kind of is a step apart, probably.
Yeah,
a
it's
little
more
bit
of the
from
human
connection.
connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's that sense of what can nature do for us, not necessarily the kind of campaigning that we've seen from Prince William or the King, but for her it's more, do you know what, we just need to appreciate it because it's good for us. And that's coming across loud and clear.
It's just a shameless plug. I wrote a newsletter on this for our Hello Royal Club Substack, basically saying this is why we should change our expectations of her. And so I'm very grateful that she came out and backed me up on that one.
She obviously read it.
Well, it is interesting, isn't it? Because there is a perception, as you say, that, as she said herself, that you're back, you've had your treatment, just get back on and go back to the world you were in before. That your world's changed forever, right? So
your world's changed, your family's world has changed. She talked about the roller coaster of it all and kind of how it's not just a smooth plane to recovery. It did feel for me like a plea. It felt like, again, her reinforcing this message of, I'm here to do the public work, you are going to see me, but look, give me, my family, a bit of understanding, but also through that, be a bit more understanding towards other people who are also going through that difficult
I'm a bit guilty of that. I'm a bit guilty of rushing because I think, well, the rest of us have to rush, but obviously it's nice that someone's saying we shouldn't be rushing. And it's what she's done with early years. Everything that she talks about are things that, things that are not happening currently and we're not used to it, but actually she's bringing the attention of saying, actually, this is what really ideally should be happening in the early years, and now she's kind of changing the conversation. So I admit that I've been guilty of like, come on,
but
you're ready for more pictures than those agencies.
I'm ready for more. And I admit I am guilty of that, but she is educating me, and she has educated me on a lot of things actually. So yeah,
I think some of our listeners will be very pleased to hear
I'm
that.
getting the message. And hopefully a lot of people are also getting the message.
Mission accomplished there, Princess of Wales, if you're listening.
Oh, sorry. Speaking of her being like a little bit more out and about, you know, within reason, what are we thinking about Wimbledon, Rhiannon?
Oh, she's bound to be there, isn't she?
Surely.
I'd be very surprised if we don't see her. I mean, it's surely her favourite event of the year.
And look, she's the ultimate star, isn't she? Like,
really
I've been
is.
flicking through all the pictures of all the kind of amazing celebs who turn up. Didn't you go this week?
I did.
Oh, you're so lucky.
She's among them.
You
So
said
lucky.
stars and then you
Celeb
thought about me.
Of course. And but the princess, there's no one bigger.
Yeah.
And also her connection with tennis generally. Last year we saw Princess Charlotte as well.
Who now we know loves Carlos Alcaraz. So
Last
say
year,
that again.
Carlos Alcaraz.
So beautifully pronounced.
beautiful. I actually cried last year watching the video of everyone giving Kate a standing ovation. I really did. It kept popping up on my TikTok, and I watched every single video.
But it was such a moment.
So emotional. Yeah.
What have you had for lunch today? You're coming over
all soft and cuddly. It was lovely last year because we hadn't seen her out and about.
Yeah,
This year,
so
of course,
true.
different kind of vibe to it, but yeah, it'd be great seeing her.
I'm loving these summer engagements with the royal family. You know, Ascot and Wimbledon. It's just fun.
Nice. Yeah.
And you can see her possibly maybe with her mum or her sister. It's just different. And it's just, they are fun.
It's kind of these couple of months, isn't it, where we go into that pattern of, right, we know what's coming. We kind of got, you've got Ascot, you've got Garter, garden parties. Everyone gets to put their nice frocks on.
Yeah.
But then you get a nice engagement like yesterday with Kate getting
and throw in a little state visit as well, which we'll come on to in a moment. But she's likely to be playing a part in that as well.
I think so. So she was there for the Qatar state visit, wasn't she?
She was.
So yeah, I should expect that she'll be there.
And she's key really to these things in terms of international relations, isn't she?
Oh my goodness.
She brings the star power
Everyone
that people
wants
really
to
want to.
Catherine, yeah.
And thinking about, you guys probably know this more than I do, but that European audience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, they cannot get enough of our royal family.
Yeah.
And while from a kind of a diplomatic perspective, this is the big spectacle, this is the ultimate pat on the back to a foreign partner, a real kind of welcome, oh yes, we're really fond of you. It's that royal glitz and glamour, which from your average punter, your average member of the public over in France, they'll be like, oh, it's Macron.
Yeah.
And lovely Bridget rubbing shoulders with.
Hopefully those two will behave this time.
Oh, no, not how little set to.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Barring any diplomatic incidents, to Royal Week in Scotland. And this is a kind of diplomatic moment as well, isn't it? Can you tell us a little bit about why it's so important?
And we don't get told this stuff, do we?
No.
But we kind of have to read into it.
I'm just going to throw that out.
Thank you
throw
very
that
much.
out there. You're welcome.
It's all about the state of the union, isn't it?
It is.
And the kind of United Kingdom and whether Scotland could ever go it alone and calls for independence. The King has always, even when he was Prince of Wales, understood how important it is for them to be seen in Scotland, how important it is for them to reinforce their fondness for Scotland. And that is genuine.
Yeah.
And from spending time up near Balmoral and Birkhall, which some would say is, in a way, sort of the marital home of Charles and Camilla. It was the home that they set up together. They've got their own properties, but that's really theirs. They love spending time up there and really following the footsteps of Queen Elizabeth II when it comes to making sure that they are in Scotland as much as possible. If I might say, I think there's a perception in Scotland that maybe Prince William doesn't necessarily get Scotland in the same way, which is why it's quite interesting that we have seen him spending quite a lot of time up there
he has been
recent
visiting
months.
a lot more, hasn't he?
Not that the palace would ever say to us, oh yeah, this is a kind of a specific change of tack or whatever.
Yeah, he's putting the work in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think we've definitely seen that.
We had that, sort of outpouring of love for Scotland recently from him. And in the last few years, he talked about it's the place where he spent all these idyllic family holidays. It's where he was when he tragically found out that his mother had died.
Yes.
It's where he met Kate. So it is somewhere so central to his own life. As you say, I do think there is a real genuine affection there. But it's interesting to see, as you say, that he is physically going and spending more time
I remember
there.
him delivering that speech, and it was a few years ago now, and it was when it all blew up around the Panorama interview.
Yes.
And at the time, it was quite striking to hear him talk about being in Scotland when his mother died. I'm not sure that we've physically seen him in Scotland probably as much as we've seen the King and Queen publicly, I suppose. And so it's ticking off that list and saying, oh yeah, I do want to come here and publicly spend time in Scotland.
But summers are still at Balmoral, I'm assuming. Well, the week that they usually go up.
Yeah, and as far as we know, they will still kind of spend that week up there. It's amazing. You've been up there.
It's absolutely stunning.
I wanna go.
Yeah,
I was going to say, we need to go
I
on
want to go.
take a little trip.
you can. It's a bit like when you go to Norfolk as well. You can completely understand why members of the royal family would go there. You feel like you are a world away from London and all those constitutional responsibilities, all that sort of stuff. Even though the king will still get his red boxes and things. But
do you think they enjoy being there?
Yeah, 100%.
yeah, and it's a bit like Norfolk. Scotland is the same in that area. They're just seen as
they
another
can go
family.
about their business.
Yeah.
They can do whatever they like. They
no
can
one
drive
bothers
about.
them.
I remember that video of the king meeting two cyclists.
Yes, that was brilliant.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was amazing.
Yeah.
That is literally what it must be. That they're just walking and he just has a normal chat with them.
I love that story as well about the Queen running into some American
tourists.
and like takes a photo of them.
Yes.
And then they're like, oh, do you know the Queen lives around here? And she's like, oh, does she?
Yeah, absolutely
I spoke
brilliant.
to Dick Griffin, who was her close protection officer, who was there at the time.
Oh, I love
And
it.
after that moment, she actually gave him a photograph that he had taken of her with his little flat cap on, just sitting on a rock with his coat as well, because it had started raining. But yeah, it's a place that they all love, and they feel that they can get away from everything, and they're not going to be bothered, and no one's going to sell stories about them.
Yeah. Because
It's
the locals are very protective of them as well. They really appreciate what they do for the area in terms of
they really
bringing
can have
that bit of
privacy.
spotlight. Yeah.
Well, I'm
Different
free at the
worlds,
end of
really.
August in case they're.
You're waiting for the royal invitation.
You never know.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to go up there last year when they first opened Balmoral to the public, and it did feel, I mean, on the one hand, it's this extraordinary castle, and it has this, statue of Prince Albert in the stairwell, which used to be rotated on a plinth by Queen Victoria's servants as she went upstairs every night, so his eyes followed her. I wouldn't choose it for my own home, but on the same by the same token, you've got all the picnic blankets laid out, ready for people to just sort of grab on their way out, and all sorts of outdoors gear, wellies by the door. It does feel like a proper family holiday home. So
I love it. Now the king has been very, very busy, but he looks like he's having fun lately.
I just think he's really enjoying himself. Look, the video that you guys posted this week is classic, of the King and Queen in St Giles's Cathedral having a bit of a step around each other, trying to work out who's meant to stand where. She's giggling away. They are such a good working partnership, and how far they've come since a couple of decades ago, and public perceptions of them and their relationship. Whatever you want to say about them, they are this perfect working partnership, and I think he gets great joy from being around her. They have a laugh. Can you imagine having to work with your other half all the time? Phew, the stress of that. But they just seem to enjoy it.
Yeah.
They both know what's expected of them, and I think he is having a lot of fun. We're at the royal briefing the other day, and they show a video of kind of highlights of the year, and the fact that they ended it with the king playing that carrot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What? Wait, hang on. No, I missed this.
So
we need to catch you up to speed.
He met a vegetable orchestra. They fashioned instruments out of vegetables.
Of course they do.
And they asked him to join them in a little rendition of something, playing a carrot.
And he did.
And he did.
Was he good at playing the carrot?
I mean, he pulled it off in a way that not many people could, I'd say. But
the fact that they used that as the final image in the quite serious royal briefing, and this has been a big year in important diplomatic matters, and they ended it on him playing a carrot.
Did you all laugh?
Of course we did.
I love that.
But it really shows what a sense of humour he's got, and I think that's what he and the Queen do so well. They really sort of vibe off each other. They can, you can see when they just get something. There'll be a little, moment of their eyes meeting and a little wink and a smile, and they just share the sense of humour. And I think she said it herself. It's really what's been behind their success, I think.
Yeah.
The Queen has also been busy.
She has. So she's been doing various engagements up in Scotland, including visiting Maggie's Cancer Centre, which of course ties in with the work that they're all doing. She also talked about it being a roller coaster in terms of that recovery. But for her, it's always about focusing on those certain topics that are key and really important to her. So, for example, Maggie's has been a long-standing patronage. I think it was either her first or certainly one of her first patronages that she took on. I think Camilla is fascinating, as well as realising she has to be there as consort, just as Prince Philip used to be, being that important support, both behind the scenes and publicly. We'll see her, of course, at the state visit with President Macron. But she's also been trying to reinforce in our minds the causes, the patronages that are important to her. So whether it's literature, whether it's violence against women, whether it is the cancer thing as well.
Yeah. Now, I want to talk about William, because William did something on this week on the 1st of July, which actually coincided with his mother's, what would have been late Princess Diana's birthday. Do you think it was a coincidence, or it was very well thought through?
We're also going to need some context about what this is.
So
for the listeners.
He was up in Sheffield for his Homewards initiative, which is his very ambitious scheme to prove that it's possible to end homelessness within 5 years.
Yes.
And we are 2 years in now. And so this was about going to meet people who've been working on the project around the UK in the different locations. And also he visited a school which is using a programme designed to identify families most at risk. So it was a kind of two-pronged visit. But it was the former Prime Minister Gordon Brown who made the comment after the visit. He was there that, this is really what Diana did for AIDS. So he's bringing this homelessness into the conversation in a way that his mother did with HIV/AIDS. And of course, she was the one visiting homeless shelters with him when he was a child. But, it's interesting to see that he's continuing that legacy, isn't he? But also people are really making that connection. It's quite moving, actually, I think.
Homewards, I think, is such an interesting project for him in some ways, and you would have talked about Earthshot a lot last week. It's almost setting up these big entities to look at key social issues. A couple of years ago, when he launched Homewards, there were a few raised eyebrows when he's standing there saying, right, I'm going to show that we can end homelessness. And people thought, well, hang on a minute, that's all a bit ambitious. 2 years on, they're reinforcing it's not about ending homelessness. It's about showing that it can be rare, brief, and unrepeated. And he, at the centre of it, is basically using that good old-fashioned royal convening power. Gordon Brown, apparently in Sheffield, was just full of praise for him, could not say thank you enough. Because he's managed to get in the room what they call the sort of broadest range of people that the UK has ever seen when it comes to looking at homelessness. And ultimately, I think that means the business community to a degree. Getting them in the room and saying, it does make sense financially to help when it comes to this stuff. So Lloyds Banking Group, for example, offering preferential loans to homelessness charities. And so for William, he wrote a letter to what are these local coalitions, because it's running in 6 different key locations across the UK. His sign-off, I think, was quite telling, where it said, keep going. So there's a lot more to do. But also praising the impact that they are having already for what he's described as a mammoth challenge. I think now, a couple of years, nearly 3 years after he became heir to the throne, it's fascinating for me to watch what he is doing, what he's concentrating on. And yeah, homelessness, the environment, clearly right up there with his priorities.
And he's made lots of changes.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, we also had the Duchy of Cornwall annual report this year, and I thought that was absolutely fascinating because it's, for the first time, he's very openly saying our priority here now is social impact. And it's quite a turnaround, isn't it? Certainly in terms of public perceptions of the duchy. If you remember going back to last year, there was this dispatches programme on Channel 4, which suggested that people were paying rents, public bodies were paying rents at market value on Duchy of Cornwall and Duchy of Lancaster. That's the King's landed estate properties, and there was a bit of an outcry over it. I mean, this is all publicly available information, but it was the fact that it was sort of repackaged and presented that really caught people's imagination. So, do you think what we're hearing from him is a response to this of sorts?
Yes, loud and clear. I remember we had just flown into Cape Town for his Earthshot Prize when that Dispatches documentary came out. The timing was terrible. And I suspect he probably blew his top a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Certainly speaking to people within the duchy, there was this sense that, as Emily said, this information is out there, everyone can get hold of it, it's all a bit unfair, it's not looking at the positive work that the duchy's doing. I think what they've also realised is they've not necessarily been very good at communicating what does go on with the duchy. So you can look at it, it's like, to try and explain what the duchy is, it's this portfolio of land and buildings which the profit from that funds the heir to the throne. Anti-monarchy campaigners would say it's all a bit arcane, out of date, medieval, we should get rid of it. It's not actually their land, they're custodians of it, we deserve the money, all that sort of stuff. For Prince William, though, he's taken on the duchy from his father. Don't forget, King Charles made it this massively profitable entity.
Yeah.
Just look at being able to buy your Duchy of Cornwall biscuits or whatever in your supermarket.
Duchy originals,
for example. But the briefing that we went to the other day, there was a lot of chat about, are you putting profit to one side then? Do you not want to make money? Of course they do, because it funds William, Kate, the kids, their public and their private life.
And their philanthropy,
and their philanthropy. So they've got to make the money, but they were almost saying, "Look, we need to realise that profitability and social impact aren't entirely incompatible." And that, I think, is what we're seeing with all of Prince William's work. The one thing I will flag up, though, is we found out that he took £22 million from the duchy last year.
Peanuts.
We don't know how much tax he paid.
Yes, he's still keeping that under wraps, isn't he? That's interesting, because his father used to declare how much.
Exactly.
Well, he took 22 million just for his lifestyle.
Yeah. Philanthropy as well.
This pays for their staffing, it pays for their, everything else that goes on. So their public and private lives. So everything they do, all the engagements they carry out, everything like that is covered by that. But so a percentage of that, obviously, will go back into the exchequer.
But I'm confused, because I heard he pays the highest amount of tax.
So this was a step above what we heard the previous year.
Yeah.
So last year they said, nothing to see here. We're not telling you how much tax he pays. It's private. You lot don't have to say how much tax you pay. He's not saying either, even though his dad used to. Because of transparency, I think, which was something that Queen Elizabeth was really keen on as well.
There should be transparency, surely.
This is what many people would argue. But this year, his private secretary did say he pays the highest rate of tax. Look, I am not an accountant. I'm not going to get into this. However, what makes it really complicated to try and figure out how much he actually pays is when they read a long list of actually the private charitable contributions that they make to amazing charities. So, for example, they've donated money to the Southport families whose little girls were murdered last year, the charities they're running. Incredible work that's going on there. Blood Bikes in Norfolk, mental health charity in Norfolk. Prince William is paying to some of the humanitarian organisations helping in the Middle East. So it is brilliant that they are funneling some of that money towards some really, really good organisations. However, that money gets taken off before tax, which then makes it more difficult to find out how much he's paying.
Okay. And the argument is privacy, isn't it?
Yes.
And we know that's something that he's very keen on. And I guess, it's his prerogative to do things in a different way to his father. But I think that these questions will continue to be asked for as long as he doesn't tell people.
He might share a bit more next year.
We'll work on it.
We keep asking. I'm not sure it's going to be forthcoming. I think that is a sort of red line of, not telling you.
That's as far.
There's something sort of in it as well that it's like, of course he's entitled to privacy, but then there's also running the risk that these news reports will happen that,
I think
the clash there.
Yeah, the Duchy's trying to get on the front foot on this, and what they did reveal is that they have a new policy going forward of waiving rent on Duchy land and properties for grassroots organisations. So one of the examples they gave us was this therapeutic orchard where people can go and take part in gardening activities for their mental health. And then, there are other things, like sporting clubs, primary schools, that will get, hefty discounts. So local charities basically operating on their land could have up to 50% off.
Oh, that's very nice.
Off rent. But the arrangement with public bodies will remain the same. So NHS,
Ministry of Defence.
Yeah, things like that. And, Ministry of Defence are renting Dartmoor Prison from the Duchy, for example. And that's not going to change. But because it's enshrined by law that the Duchy has to offer things at market value. So it's a sort of slightly difficult tightrope for them to work. And as you say, he's only a couple of years into this. Yeah. So I think it's something that will probably be finessed with time.
I think they want to shift the dial of this sense of, look at him, he's a member of the landed gentry, sort of wandering around on, this is my land.
Yeah.
And you can see, look, the report, the annual finance report was called the Integrated Impact Report. And in a way that says it all. And very loud and clear, they were outlining the environmental work that they're doing, the stuff around mental health as well, which for me was fascinating. Is I think he's using the Duchy in a slightly different way from his father to further some of the sort of social impact work that he wants to do.
And one example they gave us was a local football club in Cornwall, not actually on Duchy land, Mousehole AFC, who probably had their biggest number of publicity, the biggest amount of publicity they've ever had in the past week, because it turns out that William read about them having trouble with an access road. It meant that players couldn't get there, other teams, visiting teams couldn't get there. It was all a bit of a drama. It was causing loads of problems with local traffic. And so he basically got on the phone and got people in the local community to come together, and people have gone and are resurfacing the road. And so if William takes an interest in things, he's not taking no for an answer, is he?
Gets the job done, doesn't he?
He gets the job done.
What's so interesting is, I think in the past, his father, people might have been a bit critical, saying, hang on a minute, you can't be annoying the local councils. That's not your role.
Yeah.
Back off. There's so much goodwill, I think, towards Prince William.
That's true.
That people are like, well, it's brilliant. He's using his role in the way that he should. It's almost for me like there's been this sort of shift in how people view monarchy in a way as, do you know what? Yes, some of the stuff they're doing might feel a bit political, but actually if it's going to get stuff done, like homelessness, if it's going to get people in the room and try and tackle that issue, well, good on them.
And he's literally putting his money where his mouth is, because if he waives rents, that's money that's not going into his coffers. So, and we're told he's comfortable with that, and I think he recognises that he has to do that.
I want to take advantage of you two becoming financial journalists.
Oh my goodness, don't. It has felt like that week.
What else did we learn from the Sovereign Grant report?
Well,
something about a royal train.
What I tell you, what we learned first and foremost is that if you put a bunch of journalists in a room in 32-degree heat and throw numbers at them,
we can't think straight.
It doesn't end well.
No.
we're not classically known for our mathematical.
No, I know.
It is the one time of year where the royal pack has to turn into forensic accountants.
Yes. Which is not our speciality usually.
No, if you sort of turn up to these briefings and you're given this enormous book of graphs, figures, and no real steer on where the story is.
Even thinking about it just makes me just...
Feels like doing an exam.
Yeah.
You're sat there kind of frantically trying to go through this book.
And not miss anything.
Yes, and try and make sure that the palace aren't pulling the wool over our eyes. So yeah, it's that week of the year.
But the key story that most people picked up on was the royal train being decommissioned. And I wasn't hugely surprised by this, to be honest, because they had talked about it over the last few years as being something that was under review.
I mean, they've barely used it.
Twice last year they used it.
Yeah, and it's extraordinarily expensive when you compare it to other modes of transport. But there's something very nostalgic about it, isn't there?
We all got rather nostalgic, didn't we? Queen Elizabeth II loved it. She loved that train.
Yeah.
And it was seen as a brilliant way to get her around the country because she could stay on board. They didn't need hotels. It was good for security, all that sort of stuff.
And Charles had a nice photo session there for his 70th.
I think
he's a big fan, actually. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it featured on an episode of The Crown. Which is,
but that's why it was so important. Just like the yacht Britannia.
Yes.
They've become part of the fabric of our monarchy over sort of recent decades. But yeah, they've just decided it's way too expensive. I thought it was really interesting. The last carriages were built in the 1980s.
Yeah.
I was reading one reporter the other day who'd actually been on the Royal Train and described it as being a bit like a 1980s 2-star hotel with avocado bath suites.
And very basic, very basic fittings.
So what are they going to do with it?
Well, this is the interesting thing because on the one hand, talking about sustainability and then binning off a train might look a bit careless on the face of it, but actually this is not your average train and not the most environmentally sustainable way to do things if you only have one or two people using it at a time. They are hoping, I think they're in talks with places that may wish to display carriages in future.
Railway enthusiasts.
I mean, but that's going to be a great museum piece for somebody.
Like Britannia.
Yeah.
The yacht Britannia.
Yeah.
The Transport for London Museum would be glad of it for sure.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think they're going to do a bit of a farewell tour, aren't they? Around the UK,
they have
so
told us they will be using it again.
They
will use it in the next couple of years.
Maybe if William uses normal train transport more, then he'll be getting on the phone to sort some of that out.
Yes. I know.
Or if he doesn't have the protection officers, getting him through London and sits through traffic.
He has been stuck on the train a few times for engagement.
Yes, he has.
I do know that.
Yeah.
Just like you and I.
He has seen the other side of travel.
Of London. Tell us about warrants, because there was also some news on warrants.
There was news on warrants. Now, you asked about this a few weeks ago.
Oh, because there was a bit of a delay, wasn't there?
There was a delay, and happily that's now been resolved. And the King has given William and Kate permission to become grantors of royal warrants. So they can appoint companies or brands that they use to receive a royal warrant. But it is quite a slow process. So it will begin, it's underway already this month. So companies that already have a royal warrant for the King or Queen can apply to then also be by royal appointment to William and Kate. But they won't be issued until probably the first half of next year. And then it will be open to other brands. But Rhiannon, I mean, we know about the Kate effect. Mm-hmm. What sort of impact is having their name going to have on organisations and brands that they use?
Well, in some ways, that's why it's taking so long, because this is an enormous prize. If you can plaster kind of their name over your product, well, you are immediately onto a winner.
Yeah.
So that, I think, is why they're going to have to take time. There's all due diligence around who gets what. But it did make me think about earlier in the year when all of a sudden we were told that the princess wasn't going to be saying what brand she was wearing.
Yes.
And then there's kind of been a bit of an about turn on that one. So yeah, it'd be amazing to get one of those warrants.
Would the Duchess of Sussex's rosé get a warrant one day?
Who knows if they've sent a bottle? Who
or
knows?
6.
Who knows?
I actually do want to talk about that briefly, because on the 1st of July, William was doing his homelessness activities. The Duchess of Sussex was releasing her rosé wine.
Yeah.
2 very different things on a very poignant day.
I think there continue to be unfortunate clashes, I would say.
I mean, Diana's birthday has been there for...
Well, that's been there for a long time,
yeah.
But in terms of generally the work that they're all doing, because I don't think there's any lines of communication.
There's no communication
at all.
Yeah.
And
they're not looking at the grid.
No,
sure.
exactly. They
They're
do not
looking at the
get
grid.
the Sussexes, to be fair to them, do not get sight of the grid. So, for example, when Harry ended up in China and his dad was in Canada, and people said, "Oh, how disrespectful to be doing it at the same time." That, I'm told, was unfortunate, but couldn't be helped.
Total coincidence.
Yeah. The wine, though, I find fascinating. I was talking to somebody the other day.
You find wine fascinating, Rhi?
The wine, not wine.
Oh no! What have I confessed now? The story around the wine and the sort of where it's come from and why she's decided to do it. I was talking to someone the other day who pointed out that, of course, George Clooney had his wine, and look at the amount of money that he made selling that to Diageo.
Brad and Ange as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just seems to be the thing to do. And look, as ever, it seems to be doing so well as a concept, as a brand. Yeah, her Netflix program, it wasn't for me, but there's obviously an audience for it.
Try season 2. It's coming. Just try it.
I found it exhausting. That first episode.
Maybe you need a glass of rosé while you're watching
to
it.
keep you going,
Yeah,
to make your
sustenance.
cakes and your bath salts and your pasta and everything else. Honestly, you wouldn't get that in my house. I'm afraid if anyone's coming around, you'd be really disappointed. It'd be like, make your own cup of tea and get your own wine out of the fridge.
It wasn't my favourite Netflix show to have landed on the streaming platform either, but I am intrigued by the rosé, has to be said. Maybe because
you're ready.
I want what I can't
ready
have.
for a glass of wine. But it's good. But they also announced that there's going to be sparkling wine on the way.
Wow.
And there's been reports as well that Harry's now looking at his own more kind of consumer
Hot
project.
Sauce. They all bring out a hot sauce.
Yeah, well, who knows?
What could that
Harry's
look
hot
like,
sauce.
though?
Well, I know. This is what's got me thinking. I can't imagine what he will do. And he's going to have to be so careful about it because he'll get
I have no idea what that could look like.
He'll get picked apart over it.
I think shout out to the audience here, listeners and viewers. Send us your suggestions. What kind of business could he launch?
It's interesting.
I'm intrigued.
Get a poll going.
Yeah.
Be rude.
Give
not
him some
to.
ideas. He'll probably appreciate the ideas, to be honest.
But it's whether he could do something more from a sort of social impact perspective. But
that is important.
As opposed
to him,
I don't know, flogging caps and water bottles, or I don't know.
I
I'm
have no
intrigued.
idea.
I can't wait to see. But they have to make money, don't they?
They sure
The
do.
king now
Exactly.
doesn't pay towards their lifestyle, and
And that's not
living
going to
in
change anytime soon.
Definitely not. And living in Montecito can't come cheap. Can it?
No.
No, it's pretty. Are there anywhere, other places in the world that are more expensive to live in, do you think?
I would say probably.
I went to Norway.
but it's up there. It's up there.
It's up there with Norway.
Rhiannon, thank you so much
Not
for
at all.
coming
It's
on.
such a pleasure
We
to
will
talk
have
to
to
you all.
get you back to discuss this further very soon.
Yes.
But thank you for joining us.
When we get Harry's hot sauce,
We can
we'll
all
do
try
a
it.
tasting
Yeah.
session.
Get that
Perfect.
trademarked,
I'm in,
quick.
definitely. Can we have the wine though as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we need to
All
get,
of it.
get the wine in.
Full taste test coming up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So nice to see you all.
And that's everything from us today. Thank you so much to Rhiannon and to you two for joining us. We'll be back soon.
Well, all except me. I'll be taking a little time off for Hello's very own royal baby. I'll miss you all. But in the meantime, as ever, get more from Hello with our entertainment podcast, The Daily Lowdown, available on Spotify, Apple, and wherever you get your podcasts. Bye.
Bye.